Hello lovely booktubers. I'm Debs. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Raina Reads Stuff. I'm here in the book shack. I've just done a video that should have gone up Sunday on my weekly reads that aren't either Victober or Occult Detective October. I put the Occult Detective October video up on Saturday, and today, which is for me Sunday but for you will be Monday, I'm going to do the wrap up of my Victober reading. It's been an interesting week. I started this week, I was up to date with the reading for the group read, which is Mary Elizabeth Braddon's The Doctor's Wife. Midway through the week, I decided to switch my reading to physical reading, from physical reading to an ebook, because, to be honest, the book was driving me insane. I've never read any Mary Elizabeth Braddon before now. I think I would be tempted to read Lady Audley's Secret, just to see what it's like. But The Doctor's Wife, I decided I had to finish because I wasn't really enjoying it. I liked the beginning of it. I'm not going to spoil the story because there are still some days left before the group read actually ends. But everybody's read the beginning of the book, so we start off with a young doctor, a young country doctor called George, who has gone to stay with an old school and university friend in London, and he is introduced to his friend's house landlady and her family. There's a husband, a wife, some sons, and a daughter, and George is very taken with the daughter, whose name is Isabel, and she's a bit of a fantasist. She's an idealist. She spends her days with her head buried in novels, dreaming of romance and love. All of a sudden, the landlady's family does a bunk. They leave a note saying they've had to leave, and they've literally run away. The whole family's gone. So George and his friend pack up their things and they go somewhere else. George can't get Isabel out of his mind, and his friend then contacts him a while later and says that Isabel has been in contact, trying to find some employment, and the friend has set her up as a governess not many miles away from where George is carrying out his doctor's practice. And would he mind stopping in and seeing her, just to check she's doing okay? George does just that, and becomes head over heels in love with Izzy, and persuades her to marry him. So it's all good so far, isn't it? At the beginning of the book, there's quite a lot of humour. And I was enjoying it. And then we get going a bit, and George is a bit of a non-entity, really. I mean, he's a nice enough bloke. but he is a bit of a non-entity. And Izzy is just a romantic airhead. I don't know why she wanted, well, I don't think she did want to marry him, to be honest. I think she was sort of, events sort of overcame her. But the more this book went on, the more I was irritated by the characters in it. Now, I know this is sort of a tongue-in-cheek book, but really I didn't find Izzy had anything to redeem herself. She swooned a little too much. She was very naive, ridiculously naive. George didn't seem to be present for quite a lot of the book. As the book went on, George's presence decreased. And then Izzy comes across a very rich young gentleman called Roland, who is landed gentry. And he develops a complete fascination for Izzy as well. Now, to start with, I can't understand why these two men develop this complete fascination with a woman who is so insipid. So I was struggling with this, and that's when I decided to opt for audiobook. I'm not going to ruin the story for those who haven't finished it, but I did find that the end of it, I thought, was as much fun as the beginning of the book. It's the bit in the middle that I struggled with. I didn't really like any of these characters. Like I say, George was pretty much absent. Izzy was just too simpering. Roland, to me, had the sex appeal of a plank, and he also had a female cousin to whom he was once engaged, who was altogether a bit of a bag. I did enjoy the characters of Lord Raymond, who is the man that Izzy was sent to as a governess, to be a governess. He was a nice guy. And George's household staff, I liked them too. But the main characters, I didn't like them. I still don't really like them. So I have completed the book. But I'm a bit meh about it, to be honest. Now, the other things that I have read for Victober, I was watching last weekend a video by Roz at Skelly Dandling about the books, and she was talking about Oscar Wilde. She had been reading Salome. Now, I really enjoy the works of Oscar Wilde. I have read A Woman of No Importance, The Importance of Being Earnest, Lady Windermere's Fan. I watched An Ideal Husband the weekend preceding Victober. She was talking about Salome, which she'd read. And I thought, I'm going to have a look at some of the earlier plays that he did. And Roz mentioned that some of them had very, very short stage runs, and are very rarely, if ever, staged now. So I read 3. I read Salome first. I then read a play called Vera or the Nihilists. And finally, I read The Duchess of Padua. So, shall we take these in historical order? Yeah. Let's start with Salome. one thing all of these stories have is they are all tragedies. None of them are satires. None of them are comedies. I think Oscar Wilde should just have stuck to the satires and the comedies because they are brilliant. These I didn't enjoy so much. So Salome is the story of the stepdaughter of King Herod, and she demanded the head of John the Baptist. Difficult to make a comedy out of that, really. Oscar Wilde decided to write in a language that was archaic for this, probably because the subject was archaic. It's, I mean, it tells the story of Salome, and John the Baptist is being held captive by Herod. Herod isn't going to do anything with him other than keep him captive. Salome throws herself at him, and when he rejects her, she demands his head on a plate, which is exactly what she gets. I found this repetitive. There were, and I mean repetitive in a very literal way, there are times when various characters repeat the same line over and over again, interspersed by lines from other people. I mean, I vaguely knew the story, didn't particularly like the play. Second up was one entitled Vera or the Nihilists. And this is a melodrama based on the story of someone called Vera Zasulich, who was a Russian Marxist writer and a revolutionary. Again, this isn't a joyous play. This is not a play where comedy or satire would probably be appropriate. And therefore there isn't any. And therefore I didn't enjoy it as much as his other plays. It's vaguely interesting. I think I preferred it to Salome. I'm not doing this in historical order at all. So this is the most modern. So the language used in this was the most modern as well. I think this one was easier to read than Salome was. It's about the Tsarevich, who this character Vera has recruited to help the revolution, despite the fact he's the Tsar's son. But then the Tsar is killed by the Nihilists, and Vera is expecting the Tsarevich to turn up for the meeting of the Nihilists post killing the Tsar. And he doesn't. And she thinks he's betrayed them. He thinks he can actually bring in reforms in his position as Tsar. I think this was the one I enjoyed. Did I enjoy it the most? I didn't actually enjoy any of these, if I'm going to be completely honest. I'm glad I've read them, but I genuinely prefer Oscar Wilde's wit. I mean, he's famous for his wit. The tragedies didn't quite work for me. The final one I read was The Duchess of Padua. I think this was the one he wrote in French. Oh no, maybe it was Salome he wrote in French. And it was first performed in France as well, because you weren't allowed to perform biblical texts in England. Yeah. So anyway, The Duchess of Padua. We are now in the 15th century, 16th century. Our main character is Guido and the Duchess of Padua. So we start with Guido in a marketplace. Guido has been brought up by his uncle. Guido is approached by someone he doesn't know and told that his father was killed before he was born by the Duke of Padua, who was meant to be... He was betrayed by a friend, and then he was killed. He's urged to take a position. This stranger is going to arrange for him to have a position in the Duke of Padua's court. And this stranger has a knife and says that when he sends Guido the knife, then that night he should stab the Duke of Padua with it. Guido agrees, takes up a position in the household, gets to know the Duke, doesn't say a word to anybody, and just waits. Then, in the period of 48, maybe 3 days, Guido declares undying love for the Duchess of Padua, who is very badly treated by her husband. And within half an hour persuades her to love him back. Then the knife arrives, and he's meant to be killing the Duke that evening. So he rushes off from the Duchess, whose name is Beatrice, and tells her he can never see her again. She has spent the last half hour not knowing him and then falling in love with him. And then she goes to bed later that evening thinking she's going to kill herself because the person she's loved for less than a day, she's never going to see again. Instead, what she does is she wakes up and she goes and kills her husband with her own knife. In the meantime, Guido is heading up to see the Duke, and he's decided he's not going to kill the Duke. What he's going to do is leave the knife by the Duke's bedside and write him a note saying, "I could have killed you, but I didn't, and this is my revenge for the death of my father." So he meets the guy he met in the market halfway up the stairs, and he tells him this. He's not going to kill him. He's just going to leave him a note and leave him the knife and go, "Yabu sucks," and then he's going to disappear. And there is an attempt to talk him around, but he won't have any of it. That's what he's going to do. So he heads up to the Duke's bedchamber, only to find that the Duchess has already killed him with her own knife, which he takes off her because he thinks she's probably going to kill herself. He's absolutely appalled, tells her that what she's actually done is killed any love between them. She goes into a bit of a meltdown. He's really angry. He heads off downstairs. She calls the guards, tells the guards that he's just murdered the Duke, and gets him captured. The following day, he's sitting in jail, and he gets called before the court. She has decided that she hates him because he won't love her anymore. I mean, bear in mind, she only fell in love with him the day before. He refuses to say anything against her at the court case. And the death sentence is pronounced. There's a lot of spoilers in this. It's because I'm not expecting anyone to read it, really. So the next day, he's due to be executed. She has a change of heart in the middle of the night, heads off to see him in a mask and a cape, and shows her ring to the guards, who then let her in. And he's there in his cell. There's a cup of poison, in case he doesn't want to be hanged by the neck till dead. He's asleep. She decides she's the worst person in the world, drinks the poison. He wakes up. She tries to persuade him to leave, wearing her cloak and her mask and her ring. He refuses. They argue. The poison overtakes her. The bells ring for him to be executed. She dies. He kills himself. All this has happened in just over 48 hours. It's a bit unbelievable, really. I must admit, I mean, I love reading Victorian literature, but one of the things I struggle with is how quickly people fall in love. Yeah, doesn't it take some time to get to know someone? No wonder some of the marriages didn't work. Anyway, my verdict on this week then is, didn't really enjoy any of the things that I read. I absolutely love Oscar Wilde. I wouldn't recommend reading Salome, Vera or the Duchess of Padua. Stick to the comedies. They are fabulous. The Doctor's Wife, I liked the beginning. I didn't like the end so much, but it was damn sight better than the middle. What I've put off this week is Vanity Fair, which I'm going to catch up with this coming week, and The Warden, both of which I'm enjoying. So I'm just going to stick to those now. I might, well, I've actually started this Mayhew, London Labour and the London Poor. I'm not necessarily going to finish this during Victober, but it works both for Victober and for Historathon, so I thought I would give it a go. I'm that far in. I am literally on page 4. There is a lot of prologue, so we'll see how we go with that one. I can't promise anything with that one, to be honest. I want to read things that I enjoy now for the rest of Victober. That's what I intend to do. So I hope you're having a wonderful Victober. Thanks for stopping by. Let me know what you've been reading. Like and subscribe if you'd like to. I will do my next Victober wrap-up a week today. And that's about it for today. Thank you for watching. Lovely to see you. Bye for now.